Question. In this picture, the light most likely to make your motorcycle more noticeable to the car driver is the option number 1, brake light. Option number 2, tail light. Option number 3, turn signal. The answer is option number 3, turn signal. Note: using your turn signals before each turn reduces confusion for the traffic around you. Question. To discourage other drivers from sharing your lane, it is usually best to ride option number 1, in the left portion of your lane. Option number 2, in the center portion of your lane. Option number 3, next to another vehicle. The answer is option number 2, in the center portion of your lane. Note: if the traffic situation allows, the center lane position is usually the best place for you to be seen by the driver in his or her rear view mirror and to prevent other vehicles from sharing your lane. Question. To avoid causing a rear end collision when following another vehicle, option number 1, ride in the right wheel track. Option number 2, stay at least 2 seconds behind. Option number 3, tap your brakes lightly. The answer is option number 2, stay at least 2 seconds behind. Note: following too closely tailgating could be a factor in collisions involving motorcyclists. In traffic, motorcycles need as much distance to stop as other vehicles. Normally, you should maintain a 2-second following distance. Question. When you ride at night, option number 1, wear reflective clothing. Option number 2, always ride in the center portion of the lane. Option number 3, follow the vehicle ahead more closely for safety. The answer is option number 1, wear reflective clothing. Note: at night it is harder for you to see and be seen. Wear reflective clothing when riding at night. Question. When you are being followed too closely, it is usually best to option number 1, move closer to the vehicle ahead. Option number 2, drop back further from the vehicle ahead. Option number 3, pass the vehicle ahead. The answer is option number 2, drop back further from the vehicle ahead. Note: a better way to handle tailgaters is to allow them to pass you. If you cannot do this, slow down and open up extra space ahead of you. This will allow space for both you and the tailgater to stop if required. This will also encourage the tailgater to pass. Question. Alcohol first affects your option number 1, balance. Option number 2, vision. Option number 3, judgment. The answer is option number 3, judgment. Note: alcohol affects your ability to think clearly and to ride safely. It hampers riders' ability to pay attention to their riding environment while operating the motorcycle, identifying potential hazards, making good judgments, and executing decisions quickly and skillfully. Question. In the picture below, the car driver is signaling for a left turn. You should option number 1, hold your speed and center lane position. Option number 2, slow down and move away from the approaching vehicle. Option number 3, Increase your speed and stay in the center of the lane. The answer is option number 2. Slow down and move away from the approaching vehicle. Note: reduce your speed as you approach an intersection. After entering the intersection, move away from the vehicles preparing to turn. Do not change speed or position radically. The driver might think you are preparing to turn. Question: in the picture, the rider in the most dangerous position is option number 1, rider A. Option number 2, rider B. Option number 3, rider C. The answer is option number 2, rider B. Note: riders in a staggered formation should pass one at a time. After the first rider passes safely, the second rider moves up to the left portion of the lane and watches for a safe chance to pass. After passing, this rider returns to the right position of the lane and opens up room for the next rider. Question: in this picture, you are passing parked cars. The greatest danger to you is option number 1, a car door opening. Option number 2, a car pulling out. Option number 3, a person stepping from between parked cars. The answer is option number 2, a car pulling out. Note: vehicles turning left in front of you, including those illegally turning left from the wrong lane and vehicles on side streets pulling into your lane, are the biggest dangers to motorcycle riders. Question: at intersections, the most common cause of motorcycle or vehicle collisions is option number 1, drivers entering a rider's right of way. Option number 2, riders not yielding to oncoming traffic. Option number 3, drivers tailgating riders. The answer is option number 1, drivers entering a rider's right of way. Note: the greatest potential for conflict and a chance of collision between you and other traffic is at intersections. Over one half of motorcycle or passenger vehicle collisions are caused by drivers entering a rider's right of way at an intersection. Question: when you ride over a pothole, it is usually best to option number 1, keep a normal seat position. Option number 2, lean forward as much as possible. Option number 3, look straight ahead and rise slightly off the seat. The answer is option number 3. Look straight ahead and rise slightly off the seat. Note: if you have to ride over the obstacle, you should slow down as much as possible before contact. Make sure the motorcycle is straight. Rise slightly off the seat with your weight on the footrest to absorb the shock with your knees and elbows and avoid being thrown off the motorcycle. Question: the driver turning left in the picture below is not stopping. Your best chance to avoid a collision would be to option number 1, maintain your position and brake hard. Option number 2, slow and swerve to the left. Option number 3, reduce your speed and move away from the vehicle. The answer is option number 3. Reduce your speed and move away from the vehicle. Note: reduce your speed as you approach an intersection. After entering the intersection, move away from the vehicles preparing to turn. Do not change speed or position radically. The driver might think you are preparing to turn. Question: riders in a staggered formation will be passing a car. After the lead rider passes, he or she should return to the dash of the lane. Option number 1, left portion. Option number 2, right portion. Option number 3, center portion. The answer is option number 1, left portion. Question. When you carry a passenger, option number 1, it will take longer to accelerate and brake. Option number 2, you will have more balance. Option number 3, you will have less chance of skidding. The answer is option number 1. It will take longer to accelerate and brake. Note, your motorcycle will respond more slowly with a passenger. The heavier your passenger, the longer it will take to slow down, stop and accelerate. Question. To make a normal stop, use option number 1, the rear brake only. Option number 2, the rear brake first. Option number 3, both brakes and downshift. The answer is option number 3, both brakes and downshift. Note, when making a normal, non-emergency stop, use both brakes at the same time and downshift. The front brake has more stopping power. The front brake is safe to use when used properly. Question. If you lock the front tire when stopping, option number 1, release the rear brake. Option number 2, keep the front brake locked until stopped. Option number 3, release and reapply the front brake. The answer is option number 3, release and reapply the front brake. Note, if the front wheel locks, release the front brake immediately and then reapply it firmly. At the same time, press down on the rear brake. If you accidentally lock the rear brake on a good traction surface, you can keep it locked until you have completely stopped. Question. When you turn, you should option number 1, look through the turn. Option number 2, watch the center line. Option number 3, look straight ahead. The answer is option number 1, look through the turn. Note, maintain steady speed or accelerate gradually through the turn. This will help keep the motorcycle stable. Look through the turn to where you want to go. Turn only your head, not your shoulders, and keep your eyes level in the horizon. Question. While riding an unfamiliar motorcycle, option number 1, stay in the right portion of the lane. Option number 2, allow extra room for stopping. Option number 3, do not shift above the third gear. The answer is option number 2, allow extra room for stopping. Note, if you use an unfamiliar motorcycle, know the gear pattern. Work the throttle, clutch and brakes a few times before you start riding. Ride very cautiously and be aware of your surroundings. Accelerate gently, take turns slowly and leave extra room for stopping. Question. For higher speed turns, you should option number 1, lean more than you would at low speed. Option number 2, lean less than you would at low speed. Option number 3, lean the same amount you would at low speed. The answer is option number 1, lean more than you would at low speed. Note, higher speeds and or tighter turns require the motorcycle to lean more than that would be required at low speed. Maintain steady speed or accelerate gradually through the turn. This will help keep the motorcycle stable. Question. When riding where sand and gravel have collected on paved roads, you should. Option number 1. Avoid sudden changes in speed or direction. Option number 2. Only use the rear brake to slow down. Option number 3. Pull in the clutch. The answer is option number 1. Avoid sudden changes in speed or direction. Note: motorcyclists may find it challenging to maintain safe control on surfaces with poor traction such as sand and gravel. To ride safely on slippery surfaces, reduce the motorcycle speed and also avoid sudden change in speed or direction which can cause a skid. Be as smooth as possible when you speed up, shift gears, turn or brake. Question: before changing lanes to the left as pictured below, you should. Option number 1. Check your left mirror and turn your head to the left. Option number 2. Check the right mirror and turn your head to the left. Option number 3. Use your horn and speed up. The answer is option number 1. Check your left mirror and turn your head to the left. Note: before you change lanes, make sure no one is about to pass you. Check the mirror and turn your head to check over your shoulder on the side of the lane you want to move into. Question: to make good judgments in traffic, you need to first. Option number 1. Be able to swerve. Option number 2. Know how to stop quickly. Option number 3. Search ahead. The answer is option number 3. Search ahead. Note: experienced motorcycle riders improve their riding strategy by using C, a 3-step process for making appropriate judgments and applying them correctly in different traffic situations. C stands for search, evaluate, and execute. Question: when the front tire goes flat. Option number 1. The steering will feel heavy. Option number 2. The back of the motorcycle will jerk from side to side. Option number 3. You will lose power to the brakes. The answer is option number 1. The steering will feel heavy. Note: if the front tires goes flat, the steering will feel heavy. You have to steer well to keep your balance. Hold the handle grips firmly, ease off the throttle and keep a straight course. Gradually apply the brake on the rear tire. When the motorcycle slows, ride to the side of the road, squeeze the clutch and stop. Question: when adjusting your mirrors to carry a passenger, the passenger should. Option number 1. Sit on the seat with you. Option number 2. Stand behind the motorcycle. Option number 3. Adjust the mirror while you sit on the motorcycle. The answer is option number 1. Sit on the seat with you. Note: while your passenger sits on the seat with you, adjust the mirrors and headlight according to the change in the motorcycle's angle. Question: wearing a helmet can reduce the chance of a fatal head injury in. Option number 1. Low speed crashes only. Option number 2. High speed crashes only. Option number 3. Any crash regardless of speed. The answer is option number 3. Any crash regardless of speed. Note: any collision regardless of speed. If you are wearing a US compliant motorcycle safety helmet, you are 3 times more likely to survive a head injury than if you are not wearing a US compliant motorcycle safety helmet.